I'm Padraig McLoughlin, and I'm from Kutztown, University of Pennsylvania. And my most memorable IBL experience actually has to be broken up into two. One as a student, one as a faculty member. As a student, I was a high school student, went to National Science Foundation Summer Math Institute at Auburn University in 1977. And it was taught more method by Steve Brown, Jack Rogers, and Volodymyr Kuperberg. And I struggled for the first week, having to adapt to it. And one day, Thursday or Friday, I went up to the board and I presented a proof. And it wasn't the most elegant, it wasn't the most beautiful, but it was a good proof. And I got congratulated for it. And I beat out a couple of other students, Joseph Yi-Chung Yu and Steve Cusio. I still remember that I got that theorem before they did. And that was such an experience. You cannot package that kind of endorphins running through your body. I used to play a lot of tennis too, and that kind of feeling of success, authentic success, was one of the most important IBL moments in my life. And as a professor, I've seen a plethora of those kinds of experiences, and one of my favorite ones was a student a couple of years ago, Mr. Jablonski, who went to the board, and he presented in real analysis an argument, and it was wrong. And he was very frustrated because he thought he was right. The other students pointed out he was wrong. And as usual, in a more method class, I said, well, Mr. Jablonski, go ahead, sit down. You can present again next time if you have it. Does anybody else have a proof for this? And no one else did, but Mr. Jablonski had been sitting there very quietly, almost like he was pouting. But he goes, wait a minute, I have to go back up. And he went back up, and he fixed his own proof in a pretty short amount of time. And if you could see the expression on his face, that was the same kind of expression I think I had 30 years earlier. And I've seen that in many, many, many students. I think when you turn the corner and then you realize that you have figured it out and that you have had help by maybe looking through the material or the professor and the comments other students have made, but you're the one that figured it out, then you get an authentic confidence, and that builds, and you're willing to try again and again and again, and you're willing to make mistakes. And you realize if you make a mistake, one of my other students, Mr. Pontius, one time was on the sideboard, and I think the third line of his argument was wrong. It was a huge argument, the third line was wrong. And one of the students pointed it out, and he started laughing hysterically. And we all laughed with him, and you could see the joie de vivre, the love, the happiness that, oh yeah, I'm wrong, but this too shall pass, I'm gonna figure it out. And so it's that translation from being a person who receives to a person who gives, from a taker to a doer. Instead of the idea of crack open the head and pour the knowledge in, it's I'm learning how to learn. It is what I live for, to watch others succeed by their intelligent use of the theorems, the definitions, and putting the whole puzzle together. And it's their intellectual property. No one gave it to them. It was a product of their thoughts, and they realized, as I realized even to this day, that I can still do, for example, the McLoughlin theorem from Dr. Reed's class. If somebody asks me to try to prove it, I can prove it because I proved it years ago, and I still am familiar with that material. So I think that those kinds of experiences are the best kinds of experiences, and that authentic learning, you can't beat it. I believe that and encouraging them how to think then translates into other areas. So they might not go into graduate school in math, they're going to go in engineering, in law, something else, but it's helping them understand why they think what they think and coming up with the answers. For example, when they're on the board and they have a proof and they can't justify it. I'm a fanatic about justification, so I try to get people to write out all the justifications, and sometimes they say, I don't know the mathematical symbol, then write it out in words. Why is that? Why does that follow? And sometimes students get stuck and we say, this proof has been solved except for these 3 steps, and everybody goes back and tries to figure out those other steps, the justifications. But it's that kind of thing, to be reflective. I suppose it's like being self-aware. So why do I do what I do? In other words, not just be reactive and not just be emotional, but why do I think that I should be going to this conference this week. What do I hope to accomplish? What do I hope to gain? What do I hope to learn? And so that kind of self-reflection, I think, is another integral part of the experience called inquiry-based learning.